Tom O'Brien, the man behind Cooper's Hawk Winery. I'm so delighted to speak with you because I know you're a busy man, juggling all kinds of different things. You started off by telling me you're not the winemaker, but you do everything else. So, Tom, it's a delight to chat with you this morning.
And it's good to meet you.
Tell us where Cooper's Hawk is located.
We are just between Harrow and Kingsville in the southern part of Essex County. The DVA is Lake Erie North Shore. There's probably about 18 wineries down here, and so we're about a mile off the lake on a bit of a ridge, so we tend to get earlier heat than down by the lake. And also the unique thing about the Lake Erie North Shore growing region is that we get about 18 to 20% more heat and sunlight than the Niagara does. And that's really important. So we start off a little bit earlier, and we get a quicker maturation of the grapes. So we also have a lot more hang time. So in the last harvesting, we've been harvesting now since 2010. We've harvested as early as August the 15th for our Chardonnay for sparkling, and as late as December the 2nd for 1 year that we had a very limited amount of growth of our Cabernet Franc and our Merlot, which we made into a very premium Meritage Reserve, which is, I just realized I have 6 bottles in my basement, but there's none to be had.
Well, it's good to run the show at the winery because you get to have some of those extra ones stashed away.
Yes, it does
so
help.
Why don't we talk about Merlot, because it's one of the wines that we featured in our Epic Party Pack. And you mentioned you grow a lot of Merlot. Tell us more.
We do. Well, the Merlot, it's an amazing grape, and the last 15 years, like our sales and even industry-wide sales of Merlot have not been all that strong. And I think a lot of the industry tends it back to a movie called Sideways several years ago, where they just really knocked Merlot. And I think it took an unfair knock from that movie. We have noticed in the last year that Merlot is our sales are increasing. We do have Merlot growing also, like in the not growing, but in the Talon Red. There's Merlot. There's also Merlot in our Hawkeye, and then the straight Merlot. And it's a very winter sensitive plant. So one of the things we get really long growing seasons here, and it allows our Cabernet Franc and our Merlot to actually ripen. And when I say ripen, not more than just enough sugar to get the alcohol, but the seeds inside the berries have to turn brown, and that's really, really important for the maturation. Otherwise, you get a bit of a herbaceous flavor, especially on Cabernet Francs and Merlot. So we struggle sometimes getting it through the winter. And a year ago, we had a great growth coming off, and then in I think in early May of last year, and even though we ran the wind machines, we got down to about 0. And pretty much all of our varieties got through that night, except our Merlot. We lost pretty much all of our fruiting buds. But what did happen though was when we realized that we'd lost our buds, that the shoots that were growing up from the bottom of the plant were growing grapes. But so we had to harvest them, sort of like Prince Edward County. The fruit was about 10 inches off the ground, so a little bit extra work, but we managed to get a very small harvest. But when it grows here, and this year, so we get really good crops about every second or third year, and then the years in between a little bit lower quality, or not quality, but quantity, mainly because of the cold. So.
And so, what does this year look like?
This year is going to be an amazing year. In fact, I just met with our winemaker Nick yesterday, and we have a regular price Merlot. I think it's $19.95 or $20.95, and we only make our reserve wines, which run in the upper 30s, when we have a good crop. So we made the decision already that we will make a Merlot reserve this year, and we've not made one in 3 years. So I think it's going to be wonderful. There's a huge amount of berry development already. We're probably, Nick, our winemaker, actually lives in Niagara, and he oversees some of the growers for a very big winery. We're probably 3 weeks ahead in development, so that's going to allow us to bring it in mid to late October, and it'll be like chock full of juice and flavors and sugars.
That sounds absolutely fantastic. So all the more reason to hop in the car and head on down to Epic Wine Region. How long have you been open?
We opened on July the 4th, 2011. So we just celebrated our 10th anniversary as a winery. My wife and I actually bought the property in 2007, really as a hobby, because I had a whole lifetime career before this. And so we had that, and it's funny how we got into the business, because I was just going to farm, and I knew the folks at a winery called Colio, which most people are pretty familiar with, and they said, yeah, they buy all my grapes. That was in 2007. When 2010 came and we had our first harvest, they kind of said, yeah, you know what? We're not sure we really need your grapes. So we didn't even have a building. We made wine at another winery that year, and we didn't open the winery. We first started selling wine out of my barn, and then the winery building opened up in December of 2011. But we actually started selling wine in early July 2011.
That's a phenomenal story. You love the property, and then all of a sudden you start growing grapes. And how do you decide which grapes to grow for your type of climate?
Well, it is very climate driven. So I interviewed a lot of the other wineries, and I did a lot of research, and you've got to grow some pretty winter hardy varieties down here. So what really thrives in this region is Cabernet Franc, Riesling, and Chardonnay. We also grow Chardonnay Muscat. We grow Pinot Noir, which can be fairly, it's okay in the winter times. Pinot, as you know, is called the heartbreak grape, and the challenge is not getting too much heat when they come to maturation. And this year we're going to have our first harvest of Gamay Noir. And let me see. So Riesling, Chardonnay, Gamay Noir. That's pretty much it. And so we did try to grow Syrah, and we just sold out of our one and only Syrah. It was 2017. Beautiful wine, full of pepper. But we had one winter where not only did it kill the buds, it killed about 2/3 of the plants. And that's even with the viticultural practice to get through the winters is we bury the bottom of the plant so that the crowns are always going to make it. But Syrah, because it's more used to Southern California, Southern France, Italy, so we had to pull that out. So it's very much weather driven and also market driven. I know that we have a Cabernet Franc in the LCBO, and there's only about 2 or 3 wineries providing Cabernet Franc. It's a very tough grape to get your hands on at times, so we grow a fair bit of it. So that's how we pick the varieties. The weather tells us what to grow and what will make a good wine.
And then tell me how many acres you have at your winery now.
We have actually 70 acres of land on the property. We have 18 acres of vines on the property with another plot of 2 acres that we can plant anytime. And then we run a much older vineyard that's down by Lake Erie, about a mile south of us, that has Pinot Grigio, and we make a really nice Pinot Grigio. And it also, we plant some Vidal, only to get it through the winter, because down there, on the property here, we have wind machines that we can use to help manage the cold. Down there, it's right by the lake, it's water level, and it's not our property, and it's pretty small. So if we get nailed with a minus 25-degree temperature, our fruit is toast down there.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Now, talking about toast also alludes, that's my segue for food. I don't know if you work with me on that one, but you have a restaurant. You have a restaurant. So tell me more about that.
Well, I'd always thought that a food offering. Well, let me back up. So before I actually opened the winery, I went down to a couple of seminars in the States, and I learned a couple of really key simple things. That the first one was, if you want people to come to your winery, you need to be aspirational. In other words, make a really good product and present it in a really fashionable way, and people will pay the price for it. The second thing I learned was that if you think you're going to make it just growing wine, you're not going to make it. You need other things to entice people to the property. And the third thing was that you need something to draw people to the property other than just the wine. So we have a green space. And I'd always been in the back of my mind thought, I think it would be really good to have a food offering here, because it does 2 things. It draws people, and it presents an amazing scenario for drinking the wines along with the food. So I kind of ran out of money in about 3rd year as being a winery. And one of my former partners, I spent 39 years working at a place called PricewaterhouseCoopers. And she was a much younger partner. And I said, can you help me with some cash flows? And she said, sure. And she came back, she says, hey, what about me as a partner? I said, why? She said, well, I've got the money, and I need to retire early. She had some health issues. I said, yeah. So she came in, and then about 3 years later, we were talking about the food aspect of it. And she said, what about my husband coming in as a partner? Fine. So he came in as a partner, and he's an engineer, and he oversaw the building of the property. So we have an events hall there too. We have a restaurant that holds about 50, a patio that holds about 70, and the event hall will do functions of upwards of maybe 130 people or so. Oh, and we also have we have
Oh,
a 2 acre space with all trees. When I bought the property, all I want to do is plant trees and bring my kids out here. I've planted over 7,000 trees on the property since we started it.
and you wanted to bring your grandkids out to make sure
And
that they all had a place to swing?
yep, they love to come out here. They like it. Now, right now they're teenagers, so this place isn't that appealing. But when they were younger, it was a lot of fun.
You were the coolest grandfather ever.
I bet. Well, my eldest granddaughter is only 15. Just as today's her last day of working in the field, and she finds it a little hard going because working in the vines on hot days when there's a full canopy and there's hardly any breeze, it is challenging.
Right. Well, I have added my fingerprints to Grape Harvest as well. And, you know, it may sound glamorous, but it ain't. Certainly.
The glamour wears off pretty quickly. It's a lot
Really
of hard
fast.
work,
Yeah.
a lot of you need to sustain yourself. So we're in our 10th year, and things are finally working pretty good. We just won three medals in the All Canadian. So things are working pretty good, and we have actually won a lot of medals over the last 10 years.
Well, congratulations. And it's an absolute delight to chat with you. And this will be, it's our first now, but it certainly won't be our last. I promise to come and visit you soon.
Well,
And
I hope all your customers enjoy the 3 red wines that you picked. We're proud of all 3 of them, and all 3 are really, really good.
awesome. Well, it's just a first little taste of all the good things at Cooper Hawk. Thank you
Excellent.
again, and we'll see you real soon.
Okay, Debbie, take care.